Sir, share the script.
There's
Add.
going. Okay, Gada.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Good morning, friends. We welcome you to Master Class 24 who are joining me today. Understanding of organizational buying behavior. Let's examine how uh, organizations, when they buy, because once you know the mass scale buying takes place, right? Organizations also buy the products. Products in the sense like raw materials and other equipments they use for manufacturing processes and to produce and consumable products as such. So organizations also are buyers. So in this exercise, we you look at what are the differences between final consumer buying and organizations buying to manufacture products. So that's what we consider organizational buying behavior. What is organizational buying behavior? This is the process businesses and institutions follow when purchasing goods and services. They purchase goods and services for the purposes of again making out a good or a service for final consumers as such. And you know this organization buying decisions are relatively complex. Let's see what are the things and what care must be taken here. And it requires approval from multiple stakeholders because we know it's a very important thing to consider buying from X or Y or Z manufacturer or service provider or whatever it is. Say, for example, a hospital is there. A hospital is purchasing an MRI machines, for example. So it's not like you buy a smartphone, just a final consumer buying a smartphone. No, it's a very typical decision as such. It follows a long structured procedures with multiple approvals because the hospital looks at who are the suppliers of MRI machines, right? And what are their discounts, whatever, what is their manufacturing efficiency and all that. And then by buying an MRI machine, first of all purchase department will be looking at the things. They get the quotations from different MRI machine manufacturers and they review. And then again purchase department is not only the one, and there are a certain other hierarchical authorities in the hospital that they need to approve the final decision. So, unlike individual final consumer buying a smartphone, like we go to the market and buy a smartphone, it's your own individual decision. There is no need for you to get the approval from XYZ because you're only a lone buyer. But in the case of organization buying, you have multiple stakeholders. All must agree to the thing and matter. So that's what the complexity of organization buying. Let's see what are the characteristics of organizational buying, how organizations buy products in their market, and what are the characteristics. First one is a derived demand. See, whenever you buy a product, the demand depends on consumer demand. For example, a hospital buying an MRI machine depends upon a lot of patients coming in for scanning. If the hospital do not have sufficient patients to come for scanning or whatever it is, what is the fun of this hospital buying an MRI machine? So it's a derived demand. That is, MRI machine demand depends on the demand for patients coming in for scanning in that particular hospital. So derived demand means demand depends on consumer demand. Demand for example, steel depends upon car production, right? If there's a cars are being produced and there is demanded, then you buy a steel, right? So demand for steel depends on car production. Am I clear what I'm saying? So this is called derived demand. It's not primary demand, it's a derived demand. Second is there are certain formalized procedures that are there in organizational buying. For example, if you want to buy a refrigerator for yourself, so there is no much of a thing. You go for a market and examine choices and all, and then you take a decision. It can be a family buying decision, or it can be an individual decision. But in the case of organizational buying, it involves contracts, approvals, supplier evaluations, and lots and lots. Because first of all, you get the supplier. Now, there are very many suppliers for you. For example, for an industry, for a raw material or something. So X supplier, Y supplier, Z supplier are there. So you go in for evaluations of suppliers. Are they good enough? Whether they will be giving some credit or not, whether qualitative, standard, or whatever it is. Then it involves getting into contracts, and a lot of approvals are needed because there are a lot of decision points there. So the second important characteristic of organization buying is formalized procedures. Third, there are multiple influencers in decision making. Just now I told you, decision makers include procurement teams, finance department, and the top management for final decision approvals as such. So once you try to buy a product, an organization buying a product, I mean the raw material or whatever it is, there are multiple influencers, not only one. In case of individual buying, you are only the buyer. That's all. But here in the case of organization buying, there are multiple influencers. And fourth one is large volume purchases. For example, if you want to buy a smartphone individually, you buy one. That's all. But in case of organizational buying, there's a lot of bulk buying takes place, ensuring cost effectiveness. They buy in lots. They store it for manufacturing purposes. So there is a large volume purchases take place in case of organizational buying. And the fifth point is very important here is there is a rational decision making. See, in case of consumer buying, there can be emotional buying also. For example, you look at the smartphone features, the design and the camera quality or whatever. This is called emotion, excited state. But organizations buying will not be involved in emotional buying. Rational buying decisions take place. They buy products based on performance, based on cost, and based on quality rather than emotions minded. So organization buying always 100% rational decision making. For example, airlines buying jet fuel. For example, airlines want to buy a fuel, right? Raw material fuel to run the airline. So now jet fuel, when they want to buy, they negotiate contracts based on price fluctuations, supply chain efficiency, whether they regularly supply the jet fuel or not. So they have to take the lot of considerations. Based on that, they buy a jet fuel airlines. See, look at the complexity involved in organizational buying. Let us now look at who are the buyers actually. Who are the buyers? What do they do? And all that. In case of consumer buying, it can be you or your family, or there can be influence of friends also. There's only influence of friends, but they are not the principal decision makers minded. For example, if you want to buy a television or if you want to buy a car, I'm talking about consumer buying. If you want to buy a car, say for example, you are driving the car, okay, you are the driver, so you are the principal buyer. You want, because you navigate the vehicle, you look at the things and your interior, and you also look at the driving convenience part and safety appliances and all that. Do you consider your family members like your wife and children by buying before buying the car? Yes, of course. For color or for interior thing and lots of things. So family buying, it is called family buying decisions. But in case of organizational buyers, there may be very many. Yeah. One is producers, meaning use purchased products for manufacturing. For example, any manufacturing for that matter. See, Toyota buying steel because they for their vehicles they want steel basically. They buy steel, and with that they manufacture cars. An example of Toyota. So, for example, resellers or retailers, what we call, they buy from wholesale market and sell it in a retail market. What happens to Walmart? What happens to Big Bazaar? What happens to DMart, for example? They purchase products from different sellers and then go for resale. So they buy and sell with modification or without most of the time without modification for that matter. Third are government organizations. Yes, they purchase large quantities, for example. Say, for example, for defense services, equipment procurement, or for roads and buildings department, a lot of procurements take place. A lot of departments, government organizations. And four is institutions, like your non-profit organizations, even profit organizations also. We can't say hospitals and schools are non-profit buyers today because they are also on profit footing. They are there, but anyway, they take a lot of buying decisions as such. Institutions, just like another example of we can say is government e-procurement in India, because today we have what do you call government e-marketplaces are there. Everything is done on e-platforms. So the government e-marketplace is a digital platform for transparent purchasing by government departments. They first of all present the details in their market portal and ask the contractors to comply with the requirements that are stated in the portal, and then they can review and go in for giving a order to XYZ. This is how the governments procure material. This is called e-procurement by the government. It can be state or center, whatever. Now let us examine how the organizational buying process works. What are the steps involved? Just like consumer buying, like that only here also. First one is problem recognition. So let's please try to understand whether there is a business need to buy the product or not. For example, a car manufacturer is there. The car manufacturer need to understand what are the things that are to be bought. For example, of course, for bodybuilding and all, right, steel is necessary, and tires are necessary, lights are necessary, inside story. A lot of the things for a car are necessary here. So first of all, identify business needs. Do we need to buy this or not? So, for example, some car manufacturers may produce something which are necessary for cars, or they may go in for outsourcing. So, once you go in for outsourcing, you need to understand first problem recognition, identify business needs, what are the things that are to be bought, then take a decision. There are a lot of suppliers. Again, the buying process get into motion there. Second is need description and product specification. It's not simply identify the needs, define define the needs, and clearly describe the needs, and what are the product specifications that are necessary, defining quality and quantity. How much quantity we need, what sort of quality we need. So, for example, it's the same thing happens. For example, if you want to buy cushions or whatever call when you want to have a comfortable sitting in a car, for example. So, lots of things that are necessary here. So you need to identify need description and product specification, defining the quality and also quantity to be bought. And if you are sure about that, first, second are over, steps over. Third, who actually sells for that? Who sells this product? That's called supplier search. Who are the suppliers for this? For example, you want to buy tires. There are a lot of manufacturers. XYZ MRF tires is there, CEAT tires is there. For your vehicle, what per tire you want? Because car manufacturers do not manufacture tires for that matter. They they get from the suppliers, because tire manufacturing is another industry. So what happens? You go for suppliers who are there to supply these tires and all for us. So evaluate potential vendors, means suppliers who are selling, and then ask them to propose, submit a proposal. So proposal solicitation, requesting quotations, requesting tenders, asking them to give a price, right? So that's what. Fourth one. I mean, you get all the information regarding price and supplies and all that from the different suppliers. Then, based on different things, like you go for supplier selection, X supplier, Y supplier, Z supplier. We receive a lot of information from them, and then select the suppliers. Then start negotiating and finalization. You enter into a discussion with X supplier, Y supplier, Z supplier, and filter, take only one supplier or two suppliers. It depends upon how you negotiate. So that's the next step. Is fifth step is supplier selection. Okay, and ask the supplier to supply. Sixth step would be order routine specification, terms for delivery, payments, etc., etc., etc. That is, you precisely tell what are the terms of delivery, what are the payments, and how the payments are to be made. All the routines must be very specifically specified, because it's a long term contract sometimes, so you must be extra careful, right? So order routine specification, terms of delivery, payments, etc. Then, of course, after getting the product, you go for performance reviews, assessing supplier performance. Are they good enough in supplying quantity, quality, and regular supplies are there, etc. Assessing the supplier's performance. And because supply chain issues are very, very important, because on the other side, you want to have a high demand for cars manufacturing, and when you say that tires are in short supply, what happens? You are put to a lot of hardships. That's what it means. So performance reviews, assessing suppliers' performance, and then take decision. So, for example, a university is purchasing laptops for its computer lab, for example. A university purchasing laptops for faculty or computer labs, or to be for students to be given away along with the fees that they collect. So then the structured request for proposal process is there. This is called RFP, request for proposal, because you need to understand how many departments are there, and computer lab facility, how many systems that are required, and all that. First you do a lot of survey, and make sure that you may be entering into contract with Lenovo or HP or whatever, who are the suppliers. So that's very interesting aspect of it. So let us look at now the differences between consumer buying and organizational buying, just for the sake of understanding. On what parameters we differentiate between consumer buying and organizational buying. For example, in case of consumer buying, what are the, I mean, in case of organizational buying and consumer buying, what are the parameters we take? Say, on the first column is talking about the features. I think you're going through the slide there. For example, first feature is when we talk about decision making. In consumer buying scenario, individual based decisions, because you are the smartphone buyer, you are a decision maker there, individual based decisions. But in case of organizational, we have said a lot of people are there, because once you consider procurement, a lot of people are there, from top management to important departments for which you're buying a product. So group decision making is there. The second, what are the buying motives? Buying motives, meaning why we are going to buy, and how you're being influenced by, as a rational or personal needs or emotions. Yes, in consumer buying, there are personal needs and emotions. But in case of organization buying, we have already told you, it's a rational, business needs are important. No emotional buying. Absolutely rational. Then purchase volume. In case of consumer buying small quantities, because how many smartphones you buy, how many laptops you buy for personal use? Only one. So it's a small quantity. But in case of organizational buying, bulk purchases you have. Next is complexity of decision making. Consumer buying is a simple purchase procedures are there. See, it can be your decision or family buying decision. There's not much of a difficulty here. There's simple purchase procedures will be there. Go to the market, and at what time you want to go to the market, and what is that you want to examine, and then it's simple. But in case of organizational buying, there's a lot of complexity because there's a multi-step evaluation process take place, because a lot of departments, concerned departments, must have to have evaluate, and top management must evaluate about product quality, cost, and a lot of things. So multi-step evaluation processes are there. In case of buyer seller relationship, it is just transactional. For example, you're buying a smartphone from Apple or say Samsung or whatever it is. You just go to the store, in a retail outlet, and buy. That's all. Simply pay money, maybe by cash or by electronic medium, and get the phone, smartphone. That's it. It's a transactional relationship, buyer seller. But for organizational buying, you want continued supplies. That's why it is called long-term partnerships are there. In case of organizational buying, a company will have long-term partnership with the suppliers, because supply chain issues are said to be very important. If you have a long-term partnership, there will be uninterrupted supplies from the suppliers, so that your manufacturing cycle, production cycle is not disturbed. So, buyer seller relationship in case of consumer buying is transactional simply, but in case of organizational buying, it is long term partnership oriented. Then, about demand, when you consider here, consumer buying demand is said to be very direct. Very direct. You can create a demand for a product. If you want it, you can create a demand for the product, and you go to the market and buy it. It's simple. Demand is simple. But in case of organizational buying, it is derived from the end customers. Please note, as I've already told you. For example, tire market. Tire market is a derived demand oriented market, because who buy tires? Either scooters, two wheelers, or four wheelers, right? So it's not a primary demand creation. It's a secondary demand, derived demand. If there's a scooter on large scale demands are there, I mean two wheelers and four wheelers on large scale demand is there, there will be tires, demand for tires, and tire manufacturers will be there, and tire manufacturers will be tying up with the automobile manufacturers. See, that's why if there's a demand for automobile, there's a demand for tire. Otherwise, no. That's why it is called derived demand. Now, next is price sensitivity. How the price can be negotiated or whatever it is. In case of consumer buying, most of the time there are fixed prices, or there may be little discounts here. There can be no bigger bargain, because most of the products today supplied are standardized. So, in case of price sensitivity, in case of consumer buying, it's a completely less bargaining is there. But in case of organization buying, yes, multiple suppliers will be there, and we negotiate with them. So what happens here is more price sensitive scenario will be there, and you go for negotiations, right? All the invoices you get, and who will be quoting lesser will be taken in as a supplier. A lot of things take place. So that's the difference between consumer buying and organization buying scenarios. For example, in case of consumer buying, a person buying a laptop for personal use, mind it, for personal, it's simply simple. You can go to the market, and these are most of the time they are standardized products are there, and there will be standard price is there. Of course, there can be little discount here and there. But in case of organizational buying, say for example, a company purchasing 500 laptops for its employees. It's a service contract. So there can be repairs and maintenance issues will be there, and at what discount price, because your company is buying 500 laptops. So that's or difference between organizational buying and consumer buying scenarios. Now then, what factors that influence organizational buying behavior scenarios? First one, it's internal factors, because you are the company, you are buying some supplies required, right? So company policies, budget, purchasing authority, all these are internal factors. So you might have had your own company policy. For example, you want to buy environment friendly products. Sustainability is your company policy. So you buy all those products which are said to be environment friendly, right? So again, you have a budget. You may have a lesser budget or a higher budget. We don't know. And who are the purchasing authorities? Who are designated as purchasing authority? These are all internal factors of the company for selecting suppliers who supply the products. Second is external factors, meaning you go to the market and study, and meaning that who are the suppliers, right? um, Suppliers reliability, who are the good suppliers, what are the market trends that are happening, and what is the competition in the suppliers scenario. X supplier may give you at a little discount, and Y supplier will be giving more discount. So you will be evaluating the suppliers. You want to know who are the suppliers, their reliability and all that. So these are all external factors influencing organization buying behavior decisions. And next one, third, is internal interpersonal factors. That means, see, what happens is buying decision is a group decision as such. We have already said that is from procurement managers to top management and the departments who are taking part as the decision makers to buy a product. So there's a lot of influence exerted by different decision makers. That's why it is called interpersonal factors. Two, three, four, five people sit and discuss and all that to take a decision. Next is environmental factors. Environmental factors may mean here is how the government instructs here, what are the economic conditions, what are the pressures you have in the process of pollution control boards, or what, a lot of government regulations. Let's examine here. If a pharmaceutical company, and when they want to buy different types of raw materials, chemicals, etc., to manufacture a drug, for that matter, they have to comply with food and sorry, this FDA is called food and authorities that are there who regulate the entire thing. FDA regulations are there. So you can't avoid those regulations because you're manufacturing a drug. Am I clear what I'm saying? So these are this drug authority guidelines. There's a department at the center. So it announces a lot of guidelines. See, because you're an industrial buyer and you'll be guided by certain guidelines. But for example, if you want to buy on your own, you want to buy something into the market. So you go, and it can be a family buying decision or an individual decision. You're not guided by any external factors. Am I clear what I'm saying? So this is factors that influence organizational buying behavior. Now let's now examine how the buying situations can be described. How the buying situations can be described. First one, strategy. I'm sorry, straight rebuy. That means routine purchases. That is what you call suppliers will be asked to supply, refilling office supplies. For example, you're buying stationery. What is that? The straight rebuy. So if stationery is over and stationery supplier will come and deliver these simple routine purchases as such. Next one is a modified rebuy. What is modified rebuying? adjusting specifications of suppliers. For example, you want to switch over from ordinary product to eco-friendly vendor, then of course it's a modified rebuying. It cannot be a routine repurchase, because all of a sudden you take a decision that environment friendly approach is being adopted, so you have to change the vendor from X to Y. That's it. Next is new task buying. Purchasing a product for the first time. Yes, you need to evaluate lots and lots of things. This is called new task buying. See, for example, straight rebuy, that is routine buying. Second one is a modified rebuying, and third one is a new task buying. You want to buy a product, this time, first time as such. So you need to take a lot of decisions. A careful approach is necessary here. Like for example, adopting to artificial intelligence software for automation. It's the first time you have to evaluate lots of things because it's a new task buying. So these are organizational buying situations. For example, Tesla's battery procurement strategy. Tesla wants to buy, because it's an electric vehicle. They don't manufacture batteries, but they manufacture the technology inside the car. That's it. Initially, Tesla sourced the batteries from Panasonic, but later diversified suppliers from cost efficiency, and they are getting supplies from other battery suppliers as well. Now, let's examine, in case of organizational buying, what is a B2B model? You know what is meant by B2B model in e-commerce? B2C, B2B. Have you heard about this? Business to business. B2B means business to business. B2C means business to consumers. Am I clear what I'm saying? So B2B e-commerce, that means a buyer is a business company, and seller also is a business, a supplier is also a business company. Am I clear what I'm saying? That's what. The role of B2B in e-commerce. Let's see. One is online procurement platforms. For example, Amazon Business, Alibaba. Those are all having the products again from other buyers. Online procurement platforms get the product. For example, online Amazon, for example, Amazon has a lot of stores, bigger stores in different cities across the country, across the globe. I mean to say. But Amazon do not manufacture smartphones. Mind it, they store the smartphone, and there is a mediator between the manufacturer and the customer. That's all. Am I clear what I'm saying? For example, you have a DMart. DMart cannot manufacture all the products that are there stored there in a DMart. So this is what we call online procurement platform, B2B, B2B, business to business. Then digital request for quotations. For example, there is e-bidding takes place. Governments mostly do this exercise, or bigger companies will do this exercise. Request for quotation, mostly e-bidding. That means online only. This is called digital RFQs, request for quotation. This is also B2B. And then automated supplier evaluation, maybe because today we have AI and force and all that, you can evaluate suppliers by automation, right? So for example, Reliance Industries uses SAP Ariba for streamlined procurement. This is what we call an app that is they use it. A lot of companies. It's only one example I'm giving, because it's an automated supplier evaluation. There is no need for you to go for a lot of things like on paper. No, it's an automated supplier evaluations. These are all B2B things. So let us examine what are the challenges in organizational buying. It's very important, because you will be spending huge sums of money by buying, and with that supplies you manufacture some product. It can be X, Y, Z, or whatever. So what are the challenges in organization buying? First one is supplier reliability. Very important, because you need to depend mostly on the supplier of your raw material, or any supplies for that matter. Risk of delivery delays. These are called supply chain issues. See, there's a lot of demand for cars in the market. You have to have a very speedy speed up manufacturing cycle. Unfortunately, the tire supplier is not good enough in delivering on time. So that's a major issue here. Like that, I'm just giving you one example. So that's what supplier reliability is major issue. Risk of delivery delays of the material and all that disrupts the manufacturing processes. Second is cost management. Yes. No, because your budgets will definitely be influenced by the price fluctuations. That's another challenge. You're getting the tire or whatever it is at a lesser price earlier. Now its price goes up. When price goes up of the raw material, you need to increase the price of the finished product you are manufacturing and delivering it to the final consumer. That becomes a bigger challenge, because just by applying a logic that all the raw material cost is going up, so hence the final finished product price also can go up. That's not a simple logic, because customers may be switching over to other competitors. So that's again another important problem for you. Cost management. Third, quality control. Yeah, that's what it means again, because the finished product depends mostly on the raw material that's being supplied by the suppliers. So you are supposed to ensure the product consistency with defined quality and regular supplies. That influences the final product's quality again. That's what it means. So because you see, just same example I'm giving you, you're buying a car, but with a very poor quality tire. See, the manufacturers cannot say that no, tire manufacturer is not good enough and they supply low quality tire and all that. No, customer do not. The customers are not interested in your suppliers. They are interested in the final product as such. So it is your problem to go for buying of different raw material from different quality conscious suppliers only. So that's it. Third is quality control. Fourth one is technological adaptation, keeping up with advancements, because every company is on their every company for that matter, they're technologically upgraded. So if you use a lot of dirty stuff, old type of raw materials or other supplies, you're gone. So the company should go in for technology adaptation. Say, for example, here again airline example, Boeing 787 Dreamliner delays, supply chain issues with multiple vendors caused production slowdown. See, that a lot of problem went on somewhere because of supply chain issues are there. Multiple vendors, because from multiple vendors they're getting, so that caused the production slowdowns. A lot of things. This is only one example. Like that, we have a lot of issues, and ultimately you are put to loss. So these are some of the challenges in organizational buying. Let us take a simple case study before we close here. Apple's supply chain management. Apple is making iPhones and MacBooks and all that, right? Apple sources components globally for iPhones and MacBooks. What is the challenge? Yes, managing supplies, managing supplies across different regions while ensuring quality, because it's a global thing. Managing supplies across different regions while ensuring quality, uniform quality minded. That's the challenge because of for Apple. What is the solution then? So they have a lot of strong vendor relationships, and contract negotiations are so nicely set. And there is what we call dual sourcing, meaning not single supplier. They can get from other supplier also. In case where X supplier fails for any reason, Y supplier can back up. So that's how it goes. What is the impact then because of this kind of beautiful supply chain management? Efficient production, reduced dependency on single supplier. Mind it. You know what is meant by supply chain as a matter of fact? There's what we call outbound logistics and inbound logistics, what we call it. Because if you just you're a man, assume that you're a manufacturer, you're supposed to manufacture the product on time and deliver the product on time into the market. This is called outbound logistics, putting your product at the right time, at the right place, the right customer and the right market. This is outbound logistics. But when you can make ready, if your raw material supplies, everything is ready, this is called inbound logistics. On time you have to get the material, supplies and all, make manufacturing and deliver into the market. So this the entire gamut of activities called supply chain management. Most of the time, no, you're there, of course, your sophisticated distribution network is there from your side, outbound. But inbound logistics, yes, we are not sure whether supplies are regular or not, and what sort of contractual obligation the suppliers will have to discharge in order to supply the raw material. All these things count a lot. So this is a simple case study of Apple supply chain management. So what are the interesting learnings from this lesson, from this session? As said, we just close here. One very important here in organization buying is not a haphazard thing. It's just highly structured, and it involves multiple decision makers minded. Unless when sorry, where you note in case of consumer buying, there's only one. You can be single buyer or a family buying decision. That's all. But in case of organization buying, it involves multiple decision maker. A lot of stakeholders are there. Second is it's rational. No emotional buying decision, please. It's rational completely. How much it is costly or whatever it is, and it is cost effective. Should be cost effective because this is the raw material. If it is very costly, you have to price the final product at a higher price. Then you will be losing your markets for that matter. So that's again another interesting aspect, cost effectiveness. And then quality driven decisions as such, very very important. You can't postpone things and you can't hasten up again. So you have to take quality driven decisions. Always ensure good quality from the suppliers, cost effective, right? Third important point is companies rely on long term supply relationship. We have already talked about it. It's called dual or triple or four people who are said to be suppliers, continuous supply. Because why long term supply relationships? If X fails, Y supplier will back up. So you need to maintain long-term supply relation because they ensure good quality, they ensure regular supplies and all that. So that's the third important learning that we take. Then fourth is technology and e-commerce are transforming procurement. Please note, you are not supposed to be just be there with mechanical procurement processes. You have a lot of e-platforms, e-platform where you notice procurement, e-procurement sites is there, and you start procuring based on electronic data. Am I clear what I'm saying? Information or whatever it is. So these are some of the interesting aspects once we consider industrial organizational buying.